Deep within the lush, humid jungles of modern-day Honduras lies a place of incredible power and mystery. Here, the ruins of the ancient Maya city of Copan sleep beneath a thick canopy of green. For centuries, this city was a thriving center of art, astronomy, and royal authority. And at its very heart sits a truly remarkable object, a rectangular stone block known as Altar Q. It is not just any old piece of carved rock. This magnificent altar, dating back to the late 8th century, is a dynastic monument, a veritable stone throne detailing the lineage of Copan's powerful kings. It stands as one of the most important historical documents ever discovered from the classic Maya period. The four sides of Altar Q are covered in exquisite carvings. They show a procession of 16 royal figures, each one a ruler from Copan's illustrious dynasty. They are seated on thrones, adorned in the full regalia of their office, their faces etched with the solemnity of their sacred duty. The carvings tell a story of succession, a continuous line of power stretching back through time. At the center of this story is the city's founder, Kinich Yaxcauk Mo, who is shown passing the scepter of leadership to the 16th and final ruler, Yax Pasaj Chan Yopat. This monument was created to legitimize the last king's reign by connecting him directly to his revered ancestors. For decades, archaeologists and epigraphers, experts who study ancient writing, have meticulously studied the hieroglyphs that accompany these royal portraits. The glyphs provide names, dates, and key events, narrating the history of the Copan dynasty in the rich, complex script of the Maya. The altar has long been considered a masterpiece of political propaganda, a clear statement of royal power and divine right. It was a tangible link between the present and the past, a public declaration that the king's authority was unshakable, sanctioned by the gods and by every ruler who had come before him. It was a history book written in stone for all to see. But what if this intricate story, so carefully laid out in flowing hieroglyphs, was not the only one being told? What if, hidden in plain sight, another layer of information was encoded into the very bodies of the kings themselves? A new and startling theory suggests that the story of Altar Q is far richer and more complex than we ever imagined. It proposes that the hands of these stone kings are not just posed for dramatic effect. Instead, they might be speaking to us across the centuries, using a silent language to reveal secrets that the hieroglyphs alone do not tell, a discovery that could fundamentally change how we see this incredible civilization. For over a century, the focus on Altar Q has been on its beautiful hieroglyphic text and the regal portraits of its kings. Scholars have successfully deciphered the names and deeds of the rulers, piecing together the political history of Copan with remarkable accuracy. The hand gestures of the 16 figures were largely seen as artistic conventions, perhaps indicating speech, reverence, or simply a naturalistic pose. They were part of the art, but not necessarily part of the script. Nobody thought these gestures held a specific, data-driven meaning of their own. They were the silent partners to the talkative hieroglyphs that surrounded them, adding to the visual splendor but not to the hard information. This long-held assumption is now being challenged by a linguistic anthropologist named Rich Sandoval. Looking at the altar with fresh eyes, influenced by his work on Native American sign languages, Sandoval saw something others had missed. He noticed that the hand positions of the 16 rulers were not random or merely artistic. They appeared deliberate, structured, and varied in very specific ways. He began to wonder if these gestures were more than just poses. Could they be a form of communication? Could the ancient Maya have developed a secondary script, a kind of sign language that was used alongside their famous hieroglyphs to record a different kind of information? This idea is truly revolutionary. It suggests that the Maya were not just masters of a single complex writing system, but potentially two. Sandoval's claim, published in early 2024, is that the hand signs carved on Altar Q are not just art, but a form of numerical notation. He argues that these gestures represent numbers, which, when read in a specific order, encode precise dates within the sophisticated Maya calendar system. It is a theory that asks us to look again at every carved figure, not just at Copan, but across the entire Maya world, and to question what their silent hands might be trying to tell us. The implications of this theory are profound. If Sandoval is correct, then the Maya were communicating on multiple levels simultaneously. They were using their well-known hieroglyphs to tell the grand narrative of their history, the stories of kings, battles, and rituals. At the same time, they may have been using a gestural script to embed precise chronological data directly into the images of the rulers themselves. This would mean that Altar Q is a dual script document, a far more intricate and ingenious creation than anyone had ever suspected, blending pictorial art, hieroglyphic text, and a silent numerical sign language into one seamless whole. The central claim put forward by Rich Sandoval is as elegant as it is radical. He proposes that the ancient Maya developed and used a standardized system of hand signs to represent numbers, and that this system was used to record specific calendar dates. He believes this sign language was a distinct and parallel form of writing, a second script that complemented the information provided by the hieroglyphs. It was a code hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the right perspective to see it not just as art, but as data. This is not just a new interpretation, it is the proposal of an entirely new Maya script, the oldest of its kind ever identified. Sandoval's journey to this conclusion was not a sudden flash of insight, but the result of careful, methodical observation. He noticed that across the 4 panels of Altar Q, the 16 rulers displayed a limited and repeating set of hand gestures. Certain shapes appeared multiple times, while others were unique. This pattern suggested a system rather than random artistic choice. He began to suspect that if this was a system, it was likely a numerical one, given the Maya's well-known obsession with time and calendrics. The Maya world was governed by intricate cycles of time, and recording dates accurately was of paramount importance for religious rituals and political events. The theory posits that reading these hand signs is like reading a line of text. On each of the altar's 4 sides, the 4 rulers depicted are to be read as a sequence, from left to right. Each ruler's hand gesture represents a number that corresponds to a specific period in the Maya calendar. By combining the 4 numbers on a single panel, one can construct a full date. In this way, the 4 sides of the altar would not just be showing a procession of kings, they would be encoding 4 distinct and critically important dates in the history of the Copan dynasty, providing a hidden chronological framework for the monument. This concept of a dual script system, where pictorial elements carry precise textual information, would be a monumental discovery. It would mean that Maya literacy was more complex and multifaceted than we currently understand. It would imply that information could be conveyed simultaneously through different channels. One narrative and historical, the hieroglyphs, and the other numerical and chronological, the hand signs. The carvings on Altar Q would therefore be doing double duty, presenting a visual celebration of the kings while also serving as a sophisticated data table, recording the very moments that defined their beginning, their end, and their connection to the cosmos. To understand Sandoval's fascinating theory, we first need to appreciate the incredible tool the Maya used to measure time, the long count calendar. This was not like our simple calendar that resets every year. The long count was a grand, continuous system designed to track vast spans of time, stretching thousands of years into the past and future. It was the ultimate historical record, the cosmic clock against which all significant events were measured. For the Maya, situating a ruler's life or a key ceremony within this grand timeline was essential to affirming its importance. It was their way of placing human history within the grand sweep of cosmic history. The long count system is built on a series of time periods, each a multiple of the last. It works a bit like an old-fashioned car odometer, with different dials for different units. The basic unit is a day or a keen. 20 kinds make a uinal, 20 days. 18 uinals make a tun, which is 360 days, a rough approximation of a solar year. 20 tons make a katun, or 7,200 days, and 20 katuns make a baktun, 144,000 days, or just under 400 years. A full long count date is typically written as a sequence of 5 numbers, representing the count of baktuns, katuns, tuns, uinals, and kians, since a mythical creation date in 3114 BC. Sandoval's hypothesis is that the hand signs on altar Q represent the numbers for these very time periods. He proposes a specific reading order. On each of the altar's 4 sides, the hand gestures of the 4 rulers, read from left to right, correspond to the numbers for the Katun, Tun, Uinal, and Kiin periods. The first and largest unit, the Baktun, is not shown by a hand. Instead, Sandoval argues it is represented by other elements in the carving, such as a bar and dot symbol for the number 9 found on the altar's rim, indicating that all the dates fall within the 9th Baktun of the Maya creation cycle. By applying this system, Sandoval believes he can decipher 4 complete long count dates, one from each side of the altar. Each set of 4 hand gestures provides the final 4 numbers of the date, while the context provides the first. This would be an incredibly economical way to store complex information. Instead of needing a long, dedicated hieroglyphic passage to write out a date, the Maya could have embedded it directly into the bodies of their kings. The royal procession would become a timeline, with the rulers themselves literally embodying the moments in time that defined their dynasty's history and its place in the universe. The Maya civilization was profoundly shaped by its relationship with time. For them, time was not a linear progression from past to future, but a cyclical and sacred force. They developed several interlocking calendars to track different cycles, from the 260-day sacred calendar used for divination to the 365-day solar calendar that governed agriculture. But the grandest of them all was the long count. This system was the ultimate chronological framework, a monumental odometer that counted the number of days that had passed since a fixed, mythical starting point, equivalent to August 11th, 3114 BC in our own calendar. It was the backbone of Maya history. A typical long count date is expressed with 5 numbers, each representing a specific period of time. Think of it as a date written out as Baktun, Katun, Tun, Uinal, Kin. The Kin is the smallest unit, representing a single day. The Uinal is a period of 20 days. The Tun is a period of 360 days, which is pretty close to a solar year. The Katun is a larger block of 7,200 days, about 20 years, and the mighty Baktun is a huge cycle of 144,000 days, which is nearly 400 years. So, a date like 9.17.5.0.15 would mean that 9 Baktuns, 17 Katuns, 5 Tuns, 0 Uinals, and 15 Kiins have passed since the creation date. This system was incredibly important for political and religious life. The end of a major cycle, like a Katun, was a time for massive ceremonies, for dedicating monuments, and for celebrating the continuity of royal power. Rulers would carefully record the long count dates of their birth, their accession to the throne, and their military victories. These dates anchored their lives and achievements within the vast, repeating cycles of the cosmos, lending them a sense of divine inevitability. The long count was more than a calendar. It was a statement of order in a chaotic universe, and the kings were the masters of that order. What makes Altar Q so unusual, and what sparked Sandoval's investigation, is that while its hieroglyphs clearly refer to events within this timeline, they do not contain any full, long count date notations. This is a strange omission for such a significant dynastic monument. Why would the creators of Altar Q, so obsessed with time, leave out the very dates that would ground their history? Sandoval's theory provides a potential answer. The dates were not missing at all. They were simply written in a different language, the language of hands, hidden in plain sight for all this time, waiting for us to learn how to read them. Applying his groundbreaking method, Rich Sandoval has proposed decipherments for the 4 dates he believes are encoded on altar Q. Each date, derived from the hand signs on one of the altar's 4 panels, appears to correspond to a pivotal moment in the history of the Copan dynasty. The east panel, for instance, is read to represent the long count date 9.0.2.0.0. This translates to November 27, 437 AD. According to historical records, this date is astonishingly close to the death of the very first ruler of Copan, the founder Kainich Yaks Kukmo. The altar, therefore, may begin its silent count with the end of its first king. Moving to the west panel, the hand gestures are interpreted to form the date 9.19.10.0.0. This corresponds to April 30th, 820 AD. This date is just as significant as the first, as it aligns with the death of the dynasty's final ruler, Yaks Pasaj Chan Yopat, the very king who commissioned the altar. In this reading, the monument is bookended by the deaths of the first and last kings, a powerful statement about the beginning and end of this great line of rulers. It transforms the altar into a dynastic tombstone, marking the alpha and omega of Copan's royal power in a secret coded script. The other 2 panels reveal dates connected to more subtle but equally important events. The south panel, according to Sandoval's analysis, encodes the date 9.16.13.12.0 or October 21st, 764 AD. This date does not mark a birth or death, but instead seems to be associated with a patron deity of the 16th ruler, a connection to the divine forces that legitimized his reign. It speaks not of earthly power, but of sacred alignment. The north panel gives the date 9.17.5.0.15, which is January 7th, 776 AD. This specific day is exactly 16 days after the start of an important 64-day ritual mentioned in the altar's main hieroglyphic text, linking the hand sign code directly to the public script. If these decipherments are correct, the hand signs are not just random numbers. They are a carefully curated set of dates that add a hidden layer of meaning to the monument. They mark the full lifespan of the dynasty, from the passing of its founder to the death of its final king. They also connect the kingly line to the realm of the gods and the timing of sacred rituals. The altar becomes a multi-layered narrative, telling its story through portraits, through hieroglyphs, and through a silent numerical code embedded in the very gestures of the kings. It's a breathtakingly clever piece of ancient information design. Several pieces of evidence lend weight to Sandoval's intriguing theory. One of the most compelling clues comes from the hand signs themselves and their striking resemblance to known Maya symbols. 2 of the gestures used on altar Q are visually very similar to hieroglyphic variants for the number 0. In the long count calendar, dates marking the end of a period, such as a cartoon, often end in zeros. Sandoval points out that these zero-like hand signs appear on the altar precisely where you would expect to find zeros in such period-ending dates, suggesting their placement is not a coincidence, but part of a deliberate numerical system. Further support comes from the curious absence of long count dates in the altar's main hieroglyphic text. For a monument so clearly concerned with dynastic history and succession, this is a glaring omission. Maya rulers almost always recorded important dates in the long count to fix their place in cosmic history. Why would Yaks Pasaj Chan Yopat, the king who commissioned the altar, leave them out? Sandoval's hypothesis offers a compelling explanation. The dates weren't left out at all. They were simply recorded in a different format, the gestural script of the hands, making a separate hieroglyphic notation redundant. Another interesting detail is the recurring importance of the number 16. There are 16 rulers depicted on the altar. The final king, Yaks Pasaj, was the 16th ruler in the dynasty. And as Sandoval points out, one of the dates he deciphered from the north panel is exactly 16 days after the start of a major ritual. This repetition of the number 16 seems to be a deliberate motif woven throughout the altar's design, both in its physical structure and its encoded information, linking the number of kings to the sacred timing of events. The hand sign system appears to fit perfectly within this existing numerical symbolism. Crucially, the information that Sandoval claims to have decoded from the hand signs does not simply repeat what the hieroglyphs say. Instead, it provides new and complementary information. The hieroglyphs tell the story of the royal succession, while the hand signs provide a precise chronological scaffold for that story, marking key dates related to deaths and rituals. This suggests a sophisticated system where two different scripts work together to convey a richer, more complete message than either could alone. It paints a picture of Maya scribes and artists as masters of multiple integrated forms of communication. While Rich Sandoval's theory is captivating and opens up a thrilling new way of looking at Maya art, it is important to remember that it is still very new. In the world of archaeology and epigraphy, bold new ideas are always met with healthy skepticism. The scientific process demands that extraordinary claims be backed by extraordinary evidence, and many experts in the field are waiting for more proof before they accept the existence of a second Maya script. The theory has ignited a fascinating debate that is now playing out among specialists who have dedicated their lives to understanding the Maya world. Not all scholars are convinced. Some have raised concerns about the methodology used to arrive at the dates. They worry that the patterns Sandoval identifies might be coincidental, or that the interpretation might be influenced by a desire to find a specific outcome. The human brain is excellent at finding patterns even in random data, and scholars must be careful not to impose a system where one does not truly exist. The process of deciphering an unknown script is incredibly difficult, and the risk of misinterpretation is always high, especially when the proposed script is so different from anything seen before. One prominent expert in Maya epigraphy, Alexandre Tocquevinine from the University of Alabama, has voiced strong reservations. He described the finding as implausible, suggesting that the visual and textual data appear manipulated to fit the author's hypothesis. This kind of critical feedback is a normal and essential part of academic discourse. It forces the original researcher to strengthen their arguments, provide more evidence, and address potential weaknesses in their theory. It ensures that new ideas are rigorously tested before they become accepted knowledge. The debate itself is a sign of a healthy, vibrant field of study. Ultimately, the question of whether Sandoval's theory is correct will only be settled by further research. Other scholars will now need to test his hypothesis on different Maya monuments. Do the hand gestures of rulers on other carvings from other cities also align with this proposed numerical system? Can the system be used to predict or decipher dates on other artifacts? If the hand sign code can be consistently and independently verified across multiple examples, the theory will gain strength. Until then, it remains a brilliant but unproven idea, a tantalizing possibility that has sent a ripple of excitement and debate through the world of Maya studies. If Rich Sandoval's theory is eventually proven correct, it would do more than just add a footnote to our understanding of Altar Q. It would fundamentally transform our perception of Maya writing and intelligence. It would mean that for centuries, we have only been reading half the story. The discovery of a second sign-based script would elevate the Maya system of communication to a level of complexity previously unimagined. It would show them to be not just masters of a single intricate script, but innovators who could weave together multiple forms of language, written, spoken, and signed, into a single coherent work of art. This discovery would force us to look at all Maya art with new eyes. Every carved stela, every painted vase, and every stone lintel depicting human figures would become a potential source of hidden data. We would have to ask, are the hands of these figures simply posing? Or are they counting? Are they communicating dates, numbers, or other information that has been invisible to us until now? It opens up the possibility of a vast, untapped library of information encoded within the very art we thought we understood. It would be like discovering that the figures in Renaissance paintings were secretly embedding mathematical formulas in their gestures. Many questions, however, still remain. If this sign language script existed, was it unique to Copan? Or was it used across the Maya world? Who could read this script? Was it a secret code known only to a small elite of scribes and astronomers? Or was it a more widely understood system? And what other kinds of information might it have been used to record beyond calendar dates? These are the exciting questions that researchers will be tackling for years to come, as they begin the painstaking work of searching for more evidence of this lost language of hands. The story of Alter Q is a powerful reminder that the ancient world still holds deep secrets. It shows that even the most studied artifacts can yield new surprises when we learn to ask new questions and look from a different perspective. The silent stone kings of Copan have guarded their secrets for over 1,000 years, their hands frozen in enigmatic gestures. Perhaps after all this time, they are finally beginning to speak. What other stories have the Maya left for us, written in languages we have not yet learned to read? The jungle keeps its secrets well, but the quest to understand them continues.